Welcome back to the Goals.com podcast, where we uncover what drives sales performance at the highest levels. Today's guest is someone who has built her career on clarity, confidence, and resilience. We're joined by Lindsay Fine, a go-to-market and growth advisor. After nearly 2 decades leading sales teams at companies like Salesforce, Dropbox, Meta, and Amazon, Lindsay now helps founders and sales teams cut through the noise, teaching them how to sell with clarity, confidence, and consistency. Her story is one of grit, reinvention, and leadership rooted in authenticity. And I can promise you, this conversation will leave you thinking differently about what it means to sell, lead, and grow. Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
You've said that being rejected from Cornell and calling the dean every day until he took your call shaped everything about how you approach life and sales. Can you take us back to that moment and what it taught you about perseverance and communication?
Absolutely. So for context, I grew up in a small town outside of Austin, Texas. I went to an average high school, had average grades, average SAT score. I had a brother that went to Cornell, and so an older brother, and I wanted to be just like him. So I decided I would go all in and apply early decision to Cornell. And what's funny about this is when I told one of my chemistry teacher, I told her, and she was like, really? Laughed in my face, like literally laughed in my face when I told her. And I was like, all right, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So applied early decision. And part of the process to the host, like getting into the hotel school at Cornell, was an interview. So I flew out to Ithaca. I interviewed. I had an incredible interview. I did a lot of work in hospitality prior to that. So I had this portfolio of experience in the industry and just felt really confident going in. And leaving the interview, I had like positive feedback from my interviewer saying, like, you're a shoo-in, you're applying early decision, you have all of this great experience. I had legacy. My brother was there. There were all these signs that said, like, no doubt you will get in. So I was like, great. All right, cool. I'm going to like defy the odds here. Coming from this small town in Texas, no one leaves. It's sort of like I'm doing the big things. And then about 2 days before Christmas, I got, and this was back in like the letter days, right? So I got the letter in the mail from the admissions office, and it was very thin and very light, which only means one thing. And I opened it up and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, you've got to be kidding me. And I was crushed, obviously. But I started like backtracking. I'm like, how is this possible? I applied early, which that is also like, you're putting everything in. Here's where you want to go. I had great feedback. But then I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do? And so I, like, from home in Texas, I found the dean, his contact info for his office. I call them and I'm like, I need you to tell me why I didn't get in. And just like, this isn't acceptable to me. And well, first, like that was my goal. So let me take a step back. My goal was to get that conversation. He didn't answer. His admin was like, no, he's not available. So I just called again the next day. Nope, not available. The next day, I like called him probably for a week straight until finally he's like, what do you want? I will take a call with you. You need to call me at this time. And it was like in the evening after the day, and I will give you 20 minutes. That's it. But stop calling, basically. And I kind of forgot about this until my mom had like semi-recently, or I guess a couple of years ago, like reminded me. But he told me on the call, he's like, Lindsay, you're average. Like, you have average scores, like you have average grades. You go to like an average high school. Like, we don't accept average. And here's what I would recommend. Go to another school. You need to have a 4.0, reapply. This will be a different conversation. And so that's exactly what I did. But it's interesting because like, even thinking about that, like that's what I realized, like I was actually selling and I didn't even know it, I was not really like begging to get in, right? Like I genuinely wanted to know what I needed to do differently and what was missing. It's like, the no is like that incorrect or incomplete data. There was things that were missing from the letter that just said, sorry, but you're not good enough, basically.
I love it. So is that what you did then? So you went to another school for a full year, half a year, or what did that look like?
Yeah. So I was running cross country. I was playing a bunch of sports then, but I was running cross country And I found my brother was working that following year. He was working in a small town in New Hampshire. And there was this school then, now it's a major online school, but Southern New Hampshire University, they had a hospitality program. So I could actually go there and get all of my credits to transfer. And so I applied there and they actually gave me money to run cross country. So I got a scholarship to run and like spent a year there and did exactly what he told me to do. Got a 4.0. And then as soon as applications came out for the following year, I applied and got in immediately.
Geez, so not only did you get in, but you didn't have to pay much for that first year anyway. It worked out well for you.
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
I love it. Great story on grit and tenacity. You've led sales at some of the biggest names in tech: Salesforce, Dropbox, Meta, and Amazon, all incredible names. Looking back, what were the defining moments or lessons that changed how you lead and sell today?
So I'll start with Salesforce because that's where I built my foundation for sales and how I think about sales. I would say they were also very like process driven and they showed you like you do the right things, you work hard, and you will be rewarded. And that's exactly what I learned early on, which was really great. So I would say from that, that first couple of years, I did the full path there. I started as an inbound sales rep. I did outbound sales. Then I moved into a closing role. But I also had a glimpse of what good leadership was there. And that's what really inspired me to want to be a leader, is I had some of the best leaders at Salesforce, ones that I still keep in touch with today. So that was like my starting point. I think the next kind of like major one I would think through is Meta and Facebook at the time, pre-IPO. And I joined Facebook in its infancy when it first launched. So I had been on Facebook since my junior year at Cornell. So the idea of working for Facebook was just this like sort of dream. And at the time, we were selling ad space. It was like the small little ad units, which then like while I was there, it shifted into you need to have a page. Like brands need to have a page and a presence and a way to communicate with their customers. So kind of watching that shift of these little units to no, you need to be in there and having conversations was really, really powerful to witness, especially like pre-IPO. But also I would say like the defining point there and something that I really saw is like culture drives execution. And at that moment, that culture was so strong that, I mean, everybody was bought in. Like everyone was willing to do whatever they needed to do to move the needle. So I would say like that was a big one, but probably like the most defining part of my career in terms of like the different companies I worked for, I would say is Amazon, because I really learned operational rigor there and also like how to be an empathetic leader. Managing a team during COVID and watching all of that kind of go down. Also working for a company like Amazon during COVID, there was so much that went on that it just forced me to really like rethink how I'm approaching my team. I'm definitely like I drive my teams always, but also I recognize that first they're humans, right? And there's always that level first that you need to address before anything else. And I think that while Amazon taught me how to be really focused on the numbers and processes and that sort of thing, like it also taught me how to be a better leader just by being more empathetic.
That's awesome. What an incredible background with all of those
Thanks.
really big, successful tech companies. It's crazy. You've been very open about the tough moments: being fired while pregnant,
Mm.
losing a parent, being underestimated. How did those experiences influence your leadership philosophy and the kind of coach you've become?
Yeah. So I'll start with like the being fired by while I was pregnant, because that was like just I was completely blindsided there and everything was like really uncertain. I didn't know how I was gonna I mean, I had this question of like, how am I gonna get a job now? Like I'm pregnant and I couldn't really because I was like 7 months pregnant. So I was going to have a child. I couldn't walk into a company and be like, yeah, hire me. I'm gonna take off in a few months. So it was having to trust in the process and know that like, and it's like, it's very cliche, but everything happens for a reason. But it was really hard to see when we had just bought a house. We were doing all these things. I was about to bring a human in the world. I was like very much dependent on me and I don't have a job. So I think what it taught me is like how to find strength in uncertainty and and this is like something I help with today is like being able to be strong when you don't know what is going to happen next or like, what deal is going to happen next or how you're going to get your paycheck or, whatever the case may be, but just being like reminding everyone and I had to remind myself that like things will move forward. It's hard to see in the moment, but things will get better. And they did, definitely. And then I would say, back to the empathetic part, when I lost my dad, the way that I was treated by my leaders was like something that I'll never forget. Like it was such a big deal, but it was like I felt so safe and secure. And that's why I speak very highly of Amazon and my time there because of that.
Wow. If that doesn't cut through straight to the heart, I don't know what will. Getting fired while you're 7 months pregnant, losing a parent, and just observing how your colleagues and the leadership team in the company you're working for treat you with compassion. If that doesn't impact who you are as both a person and a teammate and as a leader, I don't know what will. Thank you for sharing those experiences. You help early stage teams go from sporadic pipeline to consistent revenue. What's usually at the root of that inconsistency, and how do you help founders turn the corner?
The biggest thing I've seen is just lack of clarity in who they serve. I've had countless conversations with people where they're like, we can basically sell to everyone. And when you sell to everyone, you sell to no one. And I think narrowing in and getting super focused on who your ideal customer is, it sounds like very, it's a common kind of exercise to go through. The faster you can get to that, the faster you can get to revenue and clarity and like data and understanding and feedback. So when you say, all right, here's who we serve and how we serve them, and work everything else around that and that the messaging and how you're having those conversations with them, knowing those things like that changes everything. But if you're trying to sell to everyone, you're not going to sell to anyone.
Your coaching focuses on clarity and storytelling. Why do you think so many salespeople and founders struggle to tell a clear, compelling story? And what's one exercise or technique you use to fix that?
I think so. If you think back at I know you have children, I have children, like they relate to story. Why do we tell them stories? Why do we tell them stories to teach them lessons? They relate to those things. Like they can imagine, right? And what I've seen a lot in founders I've worked with is they jump immediately into here's all the cool things that my product can do, but not the story or the why of how they got there. And sometimes that is the most powerful thing. I worked with a founder who changed her entire pitch just by like starting with the story of why she created it. Everyone leaves knowing, okay, this person, this is what she does because like they have that story. They remember the story. In fact, I told her, like when I first met her at an event, she told me her story. And so then like months later, I knew, I was like, hey, you said exactly this. And I remember this months later. I've met, so many people in between that, but stories sell. Stories resonate. Stories are memorable. You can talk about your features all day, but stories are the most powerful. And just people don't know how to even like outside of founders, weave them into their messaging too. Use case studies, but make them stories, right? So there's so many different ways to tell a story that is going to land, a lot more than just listing out these cool features and things that your product does.
I wholeheartedly agree. You've led teams through major growth phases at companies like Amazon and Dropbox. What separates managers who merely try to hit targets from leaders who develop talent?
So I think that the way that I think about this is like the leaders who are developing their people are thinking far beyond that month, that quarter, that fiscal year. They're like thinking about the legacy that they're going to leave behind. Like how capable are these reps when I'm not their manager anymore? I had a rep at Amazon who I interviewed when she came in, and she didn't end up being on my team at the time, but we did some restructuring and reorganizing of the teams, and she came over to my team. And the manager who was leading her before was like, I think that she needs some work. Like maybe, we should talk about a plan potentially. And I was like, absolutely not. No, this person's got so much raw talent, just needs someone to invest in her and coach her. And that's what we did. And she ended up being the number one rep that year. This was like halfway through the year that I inherited her. And I was so fortunate. She taught me so much. I think this is the other thing. I learned so much from her. But she went on, even after she was no longer on my team, to continue to be the top rep the next year and the next year, and then became a team lead. So I think it's thinking beyond what is right in front of you and looking into the future. Like, what happens when you're not there? Do they take everything that you've taught them and, learned from you and continue to thrive? Or are they in that moment hitting those immediate metrics that you're looking to hit?
It's incredible. You have to wonder how many sales reps, unfortunately, don't get that type of leadership experience. And as a result, either their career takes a really slow start or never really takes off at all
Yeah.
because somebody didn't invest the time in their growth and their development. So I love that.
Yeah.
The modern sales environment can feel like a mix of pressure, noise, and comparison. How do you help your clients stay grounded and focused when everything feels so urgent?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think we're constantly bombarded with all of the noise, like everything, dashboards, comparisons, like all the things. And one of the things I try to think through and how I coach is transferring kind of that energy and not anxiety. So taking like, okay, what am I giving a lot of energy to, and focus that on the things that need to get done, right? It's really easy to get overwhelmed with all the things and like put all of your energy. And I would also just say, like, bringing it back and making it more basic, control the controllables. There are so many things every single day that are out of our control. So what things, like, on a daily basis can you control, knowing that you're going to be throwing a lot of other things that you have no control over? So just kind of bringing it back to control the controllables. It's a sticky note that I keep up in front of me as well. To come
I
from
love
parenting, life, everything. Like, what can you control?
Absolutely. I am a fellow sticky note user.
Yeah.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, the version of you starting out at Salesforce or
Oh,
making those cold calls, what would it be? And how would you want that advice to guide future sales leaders listening today?
I'll bring this back to actually just my process of applying to Cornell. It's like I felt this need to prove myself when I didn't really need to. I just needed to be myself and be myself consistently. And that's exactly what I did, right? And I think that, we're constantly trying to prove, anything like, oh, our product is worthy. We are a good student, we're a good leader. But the moment that you take one step back and say, like, we are exactly who we're supposed to be, that's the moment that you get that clarity and you will sound like yourself and not someone that you're trying to sound like or trying to be. That's just like the story I go back to is I was trying to prove myself. I can get into this school. I can be here. And yes, I could. It was just going to be on my own time and not like the standard or the normal, like, apply first and get in, right? And I have like kind of other stories too. Like, I believe it or not, I actually applied to Amazon like 12 times before I got it.
Wow.
and and I kept just going through the random process of, like, applying online. And then finally, the last role that I applied to and ended up getting in, I applied and then I found the hiring manager on LinkedIn and I wrote him a message and I said, I just applied for this role and here's why you need to hire me. And we set up time to talk and then I joined shortly after. But it's like, I kept trying to, like, okay, maybe if I change my resume a little bit and, add this, I'll get in, and trying to, like, do something different. But I just needed to give them, like that, the missing data. They could see only so much in my resume, but like me going directly to them and being like, you need to hire me, that changed everything. And that's like very much me.
What else I take from you is you don't take no for an answer. That's clear.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely not.
Lindsay, thank you so much for an honest and insightful conversation. Your story is a reminder that clarity and confidence aren't things we're born with. They're built through every challenge we face. For anyone listening who wants to learn more about Lindsay's work, coaching programs, or upcoming workshops, you can find her at lindsayfinecoaching.com or connect with her on LinkedIn. And if you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the Goals.com podcast, where we uncover the real stories and strategies behind world-class sales performance. Until next time, stay focused, stay driven, and keep leveling up. Thank you, Lindsay.
This episode is brought to you by Goals.com, the sales performance platform built to help teams stay focused, motivated, and on track. While most CRMs just track data, Goals.com drives real results. It's simple, affordable, and designed to help your sales team hit targets faster, without the headache of complex setup or costly consultants. Whether you're using a CRM or not, Goals.com works seamlessly to elevate your performance. Book a fun, fast demo today at Goals.com.